And thank you, Rob, for inviting us. And we thought in order for everyone to have a more complete picture of why the bills we're discussing tonight are problematic, we needed to give you some background information. We want to start with the housing element. Many of you remember that the housing element is a document each city must submit to the state that shows they have enough housing capacity to meet the RENA Regional Housing Needs Assessment obligation that the state has assigned to them. These assigned housing numbers are huge. And in LA, we had like 256,000 units. We had to show that we had capacity to build. The first draft that the planning department in LA for the housing element showed were major sections of our single family areas opened up for 6-story apartment buildings. I think you all remember that. And we worked with the planning department and all our community partners citywide for a year and a half to show that there was plenty of housing capacity on our commercial corridors that did not require the densification of our neighborhoods. So after a year and a half, LA's second draft densified the corridors and saved our single family neighborhoods and still met the required housing numbers by threefold. That draft was approved by the city council in December and approved and certified by the state shortly after. And I want to make a note here that the state does not certify these housing elements easily. You have to affirmatively further fair housing in your plan. You have to show all levels of affordability and where you're going to put these housing units. And when the city got approval, it meant that we showed them that we could do an awful lot of stuff. So what happens with SB 79, it basically undermines everything we've done, because if it becomes state law, it won't matter if our housing element saves neighborhoods, because this bill opens up those neighborhoods. Another bit of background information we would like to offer is that Scott Wiener is a powerful senator in Sacramento, and he has introduced SB 79. He has always wanted to introduce legislation that would end single-family neighborhoods. He's been very open about it and has pushed to end single-family neighborhoods. He's failed so far, but keeps inching closer, and he has a lot of support from pro-development groups that include Abundant Housing, Streets for All, and YIMBY. So under the guise of California needing more housing, and the people need to live near transit, so transit is used and becomes lucrative, he introduced SB 79 as a transit bill, not a housing bill, but a transit bill, saying the impacts will be minimal to neighborhoods, but the benefits will be great. So Jeff is now going to start and show you how minimal these effects will be.
Are you seeing my screen?
We're seeing you.
Okay, so I have not, I thought I said shared. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, here's a slideshow. Hey, I need to reduce this so I can see what I'm presenting. Hi, SB 79 allows 65 to 75 foot high by right apartment buildings anywhere within a half-mile radius, including single-family neighborhoods, of qualifying bus stops and rail stops. A qualifying bus stop services a bus route that at some point of its route passes through a priority bus lane. SB 79 does not require any affordable housing units. We're going to show you what this means. SB 677 we fought, and it was defeated in committee on Tuesday. What we're also going to talk about, as Rob prefaced, is AB 647, which allows, this is wording from the bill, no more than 8 housing units located on a lot with one single family home. This bill would prohibit setbacks, height limitations, lot coverage, floor area ratio, or other standards that would limit residential development capacity. We'll show you what that means. Well, let's start with SB 79. A dedicated or priority bus lane has to be part of the route to get the SB 79 to be invoked. So this is a sample of just one bus lane. This is bus route 240. It goes on Ventura Boulevard from Universal through Tarzana, then up through to Porter Ranch. So it passes only through a dedicated bus lane for 1 mile in Sherman Oaks, but that impacts the entire route. So here's that route a little bit more. You can see how it goes down Ventura Boulevard from Universal all the way up. These circles are half-mile radiuses from each bus stop along the way. But what we really want to know is how does it impact Encino? So this is the 240 bus route going down Ventura Boulevard, and those black dots you see are the stops that occur in Encino, and the bus has to have sometime during its day 15-minute headway, which the 240 bus has. So if we look at this now with the radiuses, these radiuses are a half mile from each one of these dots, which are the bus stops along Ventura Boulevard. Let's look a little closer. So starting at the 405, and we'll move to the west, you can see your areas of Encino and see the half mile south of the boulevard, half mile north of the boulevard. Okay, all those areas can have a 6 to 7 story apartment building in it. Dedicated bus lines are being implemented this year on Roscoe and Vermont, being implemented all the time through all kinds of different ordinances. Any bus route that travels through any portion of a dedicated lane anywhere will allow SB 79 development within a half mile of every one of the bus stops. Okay, so what does that mean? This is a diagram showing a typical suburban 5,000 square foot lot with a 2,250 square foot home, which is what's allowed by zoning code today. But an SB 79 will allow 6 to 7 stories, 9 to 11 units on a site this small, and 15,000 to 17,500 square feet of building. Okay, remember, this house right now is just over 2,000 square feet. This is what happens if SB 79 gets passed. So you go from having a neighbor with a 2,000 square foot house to having a 6-story, 15,000 square foot apartment house next to you. Another way to visualize it, here's a photograph of a single-family neighborhood. And this is a 6-story house, apartment house next to it. Okay, we have a little video we put together that helps explain, again, how SB 79 works. Communities need bus routes. Bus routes give us the way to get around if they're operating well, from to work, to shopping, to schools. A good bus system is great. But how with SB 79, if you have a priority line, you can see on the left here, a bus goes through that. Every place a bus stops, a half-mile radius goes out. And inside the half-mile radius, you can build these 6 to 7 story apartment houses, and the bus route can come and turn. It doesn't have it, but once it's gone through that priority lane, doesn't matter how many miles it goes, every stop allows these apartment buildings. Now, we know that these apartment buildings don't belong in our single-family neighborhoods. They belong on the corridors, the transit corridors, where we have the infrastructure to supply their needs. Again, let's look at this and what does, we're moving on to 647. 647 is what we mentioned with Rob, that it allows 8 housing units on a property. So here again is our 5,000 square foot lot with a 2,250 square foot house on it. But the bill reads, the bill prohibits any setback height limit, lot coverage limitation, floor area ratio, or other standard that would limit a structure constructed in the same location and within the same dimensions of an existing structure. There's no definition of what a unit is. So when I read this as an architect, I say to my client, this is what you can build. 8 stories right there. Pretty shocking. Anywhere. This can happen any site in California, any single family site in California. Another example. So quick recap, SB 79 allows 6 to 7 story apartments on all properties within a half mile of a qualified transit stop. And SB 67 allows 8 houses on all residential properties in California, zoned for 8 housing units or less.
we have not yet started our push against AB 647, but we are planning a meeting with Assemblymember Gonzalez because this bill makes no sense at all. And we hope to have a meeting sometime next week, at least with his staff. So United Neighbors Coalition, which is a coalition of neighborhood groups all over the city and state, has been laser focused on SB 79 since January. We have mobilized our coalition. Your association is included, and we took a two-pronged approach. We took one that focused on Sacramento and one that focused locally. So 2 days ago in the Housing Committee, they passed SB 79 on a 6 yes, 2 no, and 3 no votes given. So it ended up being a 6-5 vote that made this bill go to the next committee. So the closeness of this vote surprised Scott Wiener, who usually sails through these committee hearings. The next committee that will hear this bill is called Local Government, and it's going to be heard next Wednesday. We have sent thousands of letters to Senator Durazo, who chairs this committee and comes from Los Angeles. We have also sent many letters to Senator Stern because he needs to hear from us, because unless they hear from us, they usually do not fight. Hold on, Jeff. They usually do not fight the leadership in Sacramento. So we need to let him know. So we have sent letters to the legislative portal because that is the only way your vote is registered and your comments are used to analyze the bill in order to aid the committee hearing members. So it was very important, but the portal is now closed. So if you have sent into the portal, we're good. Otherwise, keep sending letters to our Senator Stern, and you can still send a letter to Senator Durazo. Our local approach is that in order for the city to oppose this bill, it must have a resolution that passes our city council. That resolution we worked on, and it was presented by John Lee and seconded by Tracy Park. We've pushed the president of the council, Harris-Dawson, to bring it to a vote, but it has not yet been assigned to be heard. So we encourage all of you to keep writing to the mayor. We have sent, Jeff, if you can move to the next thing. Yeah, we need to send letters to the mayor and CC Marissa.Bowman, who is her community outreach person. We need to continue writing to Harris-Dawson to try to bring this resolution to the floor, and also to Nithya Raman for her to support this resolution. And the resolution is pretty darn simple. Jeff, I think we have the next slide. If you notice at the very end, what it says is the city of Los Angeles hereby includes in its 2025-26 state legislative program opposition to SB 79 unless amended to exempt municipalities with a state-approved and compliant housing element. They felt that that was the best approach for the city to take. We have communicated with Scott Wiener, and we have said, why wouldn't you allow exemptions for cities that have already done a housing element, that have given you plenty of housing? And his comment was to us, well, that eventually will be every city in California. And we said, but isn't that the point? And he said, no, we need housing to be everywhere around transit. So he's obviously targeting single family here. So Rob, I think you have template letters. If people want to use a template letter to send to Harris-Dawson to get this thing in front of the city council. We also have a template letter that can be sent to Senator Durazo. We need to be heard. The council members and the mayor are busy with fire recovery and the budget, but we can't let them fail us here, and they need to hear us. We have found plenty of places to build housing. We are not anti-housing or anti-density, but it all has to be put in the right places for all of us to live well. So that's our presentation.